Hello there everybody, how are you doing today? Hey there beautiful, my name is Joesephyr and welcome to another Should You Pull video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Now in this week's video we're going to be covering two events, although we actually only know the details of one of them specifically, but we're going to be covering Enna Kros event, which we do know everything about, but we're also going to be covering Cloudy with a Chance of Boom, which is going to be bringing along two banners that we're not sure of yet, but one of them we can fairly safely assume is going to contain Sherlotta's LD, which is brand new, and this EX level 90 awakening for Selphie as well, which is going to be rather transformative for that character. So if you'd like to find out more about these characters and what we know about the events as well, then stay tuned and keep on watching. Now before we get started on the video, don't forget to check out all of my social media links in the description box below. Over on Twitch, I've actually just announced my subathon anniversary stream, as it is 2 years now since I started streaming full time, and I have all of you wonderful people to thank for it. And this time around I'm actually going to show a little bit of a different side to myself, because while Final Fantasy is the franchise that I'm most well known for online, I do have a very, very large passion for fighting games. Now some of you may have seen me play Smash Bros before, but I don't think you guys have really seen me play King of Fighters or Street Fighter. So if you'd like to learn more about the details of this subathon, do go over to the community tab on YouTube, or if you want to come and find me on Twitch as well and ask questions there, then by all means feel free to do so. Over on Patreon, I do always shout out one of my patrons every time I release a video, as without you wonderful people who support my channel as much as you do, I wouldn't have a channel. So a massive thank you goes out to all of you, but I do always shout out one person at random, and today that person is going to be Milotsu, who is brand new to my Patreon, but has been on my Twitch channel as a supporter and a viewer for a long time. So a massive thank you goes out to you for your support as well. And of course, the big shout outs over to all of the other resources and content creators out there for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, with massive inclusions going over to Leo, Bob and Mediu for their translations over on Reddit, Dissidia DB, DissidiaCompendium.com, DissidiaInfo.com, the Tombury Troop. There are so many places to look for fabulous resources for this game, and I encourage you to check them all out. Okay, so let's get started by taking a look at some of these banners and what we had to expect from them. Now, I'm wearing this big old jumper, and you guys can't really see it because of my green screen, etc., but my house is like an icebox right now for some reason, because England, after coming back from Venice, is absolutely freezing, and I have absolutely no idea what's going on with the weather. Anyways, let's go and talk about the first banner that we have to expect here, which is going to be Enna Kros. So the banner is going to contain Enna Kros, her brand new kit, everything about her is brand new. We're also going to see the return of Reno and his LD as well, and then it's going to be another opportunity to get Zack if you haven't had him already, and Rude is there as well with just his EX. So Reno's getting his EX improvements and his C90 here, and he does get a rework as well. The rework is essentially just additional uses of his skills, additional HP dumps to all of his stuff. It's not especially exciting. His LD attack pyramid is still quite unique in the way in which it works. Like, the pyramid debuff makes it so that the enemy pretty much just can't do anything for the turn in which they have it. And it is now a 4 HP dumping attack that has additional properties added to its dispel cases. So instead of erasing one debuff to the enemy, it erases 4. It only does it to the target up until he gets his FR weapon later down the line, where it does it to everything. Reno's fine. Like, he's one of these characters that a lot of people kind of were really excited about, and then it turned out he didn't really do a lot, and that's kind of still the case. Like, he's definitely better. Like, he has HP damage like increases, like he's now got additional party HP damage up added to his Turk Pride, but is it really enough for him to be used over a lot of other like support / damage based characters? Probably not. If you really like Reno, then you're gonna get more use out of him now. If you didn't particularly care about him, nothing's really come out of this C90 Awakening that makes you suddenly absolutely have to have him. His EX obviously has greater HP dumps on it as well. That's pretty much it. There's nothing particularly exciting. Enna Kros is a very interesting character, to say the least. She doesn't really work the same as a lot of characters. She does a lot of her damage through her Omega God backup kind of summon that does the damage in place of her, and its stats are kind of distributed slightly differently from hers. So Close Enough Holy is the only attack that she herself does. So she does this, it provides the probably Divine Punishment, which is light and dark in peril and a defense down, and also Close Enough Creator, which is her kind of enchant for holy and dark, and it also makes so that any bravery damage that she does is always rounded up to the nearest 1,000, so there's no single, double, or triple digit that you need to worry about. When it comes to her LD, it also provides her LD board. It also adds an element to this particular buff that is a big reason why people like her. But other than that, it's just a AoE group HP attack with multiple HP dumps. That's pretty much good to go. Bold Maneuver is the first attack that actually uses Omega God. So it summons Omega God's arm, he does a sword swing, that's pretty much it. It doesn't consume her bravery. And it basically has a huge amount of stat increases, but only while the Omega God is attacking. The main thing you want to be looking at when it comes to this is the fact that the max Brave cap and Brave damage caps are doubled with anything that Omega God does. So it's going to hit really hard, obviously, but you want to kind of focus on that damage cap, because obviously it's like the main stat that everyone's worrying about right now. It's why people use Ramza, it's why people use Garnet, amongst other things. But Enna Kros can benefit from this very heavily because anything that she gets in terms of Brave damage caps up is going to be doubled because of Omega God. So it makes up for the fact that her HP dumps using Omega God are a lot lower than you would come to expect from other characters. Now the trade-off for this is that Enna Kros is extremely slow. Like, a lot of the things she does delays her. She's just not quick to begin with. Her EX charge is very slow, but there is a way around that. You have to pair her up with characters that go well with her. So somebody like Rem is going to be really good with her by pulling her turns forward. Somebody like Lude can be really good for her by pulling her EX forward. You kind of have to, if you're gonna play Enna Kros, and this is something that's very, very apparent through the rest of her kit, you have to kind of go all in on it. Her EX, as I was saying, does also use Omega God as well, and it also grants her a stack of Omega God Manifest, which basically makes it so that whenever you use any of the attacks that use Omega God, you have max Brave cap when you start doing them. It's useful. It is useful. And this EX also has turn deletion, AoE as well, very mid-Italian, Zidane, that kind of thing. It delays her, it's got a low turn rate, and it's a very slow charge up. So it does hit hard because it obviously is Omega God, so you're going to get the double max Brave caps, etc. But even with her C90, it only has 3 HP dumps in it, so you need to make those HP dumps count. Now her LD, again, this does hit really hard because this has 6 HP dumps in it that are used by Omega God. So this is going to hit really hard, and it also gives you stacks of Omega God Manifest, and also gives her another means to get her Close Enough Creator buff. Now the LD buff that you get from this, or the thing that gets added to this through her LD boards, is the LD board extension. So you get max Brave up, attack up, HP damage up. At the end of any of Enna Kros' turns, whether she's using her C65, her EX, anything, she has a 20% chance for her EX gauge to suddenly max out, so she can use her very powerful EX again. And this is kind of where people are looking at Enna Kros and thinking that she'll be a lot of fun. This is the kind of RNG that I am less keen on, because it's 20% is not a lot, and you can't really rely on it, like, for anything. Like, which is why you kind of have to build all in with Enna Kros. And like characters like Lude, like Rem, like Ashe will do well for her because you're not relying on this 20% chance of an EX gauge max out at the end of each of her turns, so that she can use the best of her attacks. Because her skill 1 and 2 are fine, but they're not especially noteworthy. It's her EX that's really good and her LD attack that's really good. So you want to be able to use those as frequently as you physically can, so you're taking advantage of Omega God, the double max Brave cap, all of that good stuff, but you're also going to want to invest very heavily in Enna Kros if you want to use her to the maximum capacity she has. So I'm talking blue armor, Ultima weapon, HP cap up supports in the party. Anything you can do to make her damage doubled is what's going to make her stand out. Otherwise, she is just going to be a damage dealer that doesn't perform as well as your BT characters do. Then you obviously have her LD call abilities. So her call ability, Her regular call ability does probably Divine Punishment, which is kind of nice. It gives you the Holy and Dark resist down. It's alright. And you also get the enchantment out of it. And the fact that any damage she does in terms of bravery rounds up to the nearest 1,000. Her LD call, however, also provides the HP, like the HP damage up, the Holy and Dark like enchantment, but also the at the end of turn 20% chance of filling your EX gauge to full. This is used most commonly with BT characters because it's the only way for you to use your BT in or your EX in a BT phase more than once, typically. So people look at characters like Emperor, for example, when he gets his C90, and there's been like meme videos going around of Emperor being able to cast his EX in every turn during his BT, which makes colossal damage, loads of delay, loads of crazy HP dumps, and loads of really fun stuff. But the reality of this is that the chance that that actually happens is extremely minimal. Like, if you get it once, great, not too bad. But it's just the kind of thing that you really can't plan around. Because 20% chance, I mean, I talk about luck on these things all the time. If I were to use this, I probably would never get it. So, like, I just don't think that it's worth going out of your way for. If you want a character that's fun, that's a bit different, and you're willing to invest the resources to make her the best that she can be, Enna Kros can actually be really powerful. And having turn deletion on her EX, if you pair her up with the right characters, she can be fabulous. But you really do need to look at her as an investment if you want to use her even at all. And the LD call, it's fun, it's quirky, and if I had it, like, because I'll spoil it now, I'll probably be throwing tickets to this banner because I still want Zac, and if I get Enna Kros, sure, I'm okay with that. And I probably would use her, but she's not the be-all and end-all by any stretch. So the other banner that we're expecting to come out this week is one that's kind of masked when it comes to the slides from the community stream and all that. We don't know what this is going to be, but we can make a fairly safe assumption that one of the two banners that's coming around is going to contain Selphie, Sherlotta, and the last chance to get Zac's BT. There is a second banner on there. We don't know exactly what's on that, but we can kind of assume that this is probably the most likely banner that we're going to get, which is Garland and Oren. And this is purely a reprint banner. No C90s, no anything additional. It's just a reprint banner. So if it changes, then great. If they manage to pull somebody forward or maybe give some extensions buffs to these guys early, then great. Then yeah, you're definitely going to want to invest in them because they're early awakenings and those tend to be the case. But I don't think that that is going to be the case in this situation. So we're going to talk about Selphie first, because there actually isn't an awful lot to Selphie that's changed that hasn't already been said, except for one thing that is huge. Now, Selphie gets reworked here. Drain is increased max bravery on the gains that she does before she does it. No big deal. Aura, she gets more brave gains. When she uses Aura, she gets more bravery, more overflow. You still get the EX charge increases. Maybe that's something you might want to consider with Enna Kros as well. Her HP++ has 2 HP dumps in it, which is actually very nice as well. And then the Garden Festival Committee buff that she gets as well has more HP damage and brave gains up. Awesome. Her LD board. Now she does 3 HP dumps, AoE full HP when she does it. Rapture is extended by 2 actions. Oh, and by the way, Rapture doesn't now tick down when you hit the enemy. It ticks down like a normal debuff. This is ridiculous. Like, unbelievably ridiculous. Like, if you're using any kind of delay strategy or ways in which the enemy's not taking turns, or even if they are taking turns, you just go off with launches. Like, you know when you have that party member, when you're looking at friend units and you're like, oh, I really don't know who I want to take out of my party for a friend unit so that I can pull them in. Chances are, if you're using Selphie, you can just use her, and this will extend into FR era as well, and I'll go into why in a moment. Because you could just inflict Rapture, do your bit, she swans off for a while, by the time she's come back, you probably still got the Rapture debuff on, you're just launching all the time. It's really crazy. Like, she's still used in JP now and still very highly rated because adding another 2 HP dumps and a percentage in HP damage total at the end of every attack your party is doing is ridiculous. Like, there's no two ways about it. Sherlotta's nice. Selphie is a must-have. Like, she is fantastic. And when I say this goes into FR era, and this will also apply to Sherlotta, is that you will find that there is a lot more value in characters that have instant turn buff-based abilities. When we get the FR weapons, you have an FR gauge that builds over the course of time, over the course of abilities that you use, etc. And these are increased most by abilities that don't necessarily do damage, that they'll do, that you get a buff. And Wall and Aura in Selphie are obviously very good examples of this. They're instant turn, they buff. So you can literally, with Selphie, go Rapture turn 1. The launch debuff is activated. Turn 2, you start spamming Wall, spamming Aura until the FR gauge is full, and then whoever you want to use your FR with when that comes around, you can just use, and then you switch Selphie out for a friend unit, and off you go. It's that simple. And like the fact that she has all of these little bits, she's still also a pretty solid member of your party even there, just because her auras are good, especially with launches. She's just phenomenal. Now, let's talk about Sherlotta. Now, Sherlotta also gets a rework here. So she gets not a lot added to her basic skills. So like the Crystal and Crystal Generation just do more. Like they gain more bravery and they do more bravery, like overflows and things like that. Her EX also, like it's nice what she gets here because it recovers a use of her Crystal Generation, which means she's now much more capable of dealing damage than she ever was before. And it extends the base duration of Lighter Creation by 2 turns. So, Lighter Creation, much better move because it extends by 2 actions. You're getting a skill use back for your base damage skill. You're probably never gonna run out of that buff, but remember when that buff was 20% HP damage up and it was like the best thing ever? Well, it's not. It's definitely not alone nowadays. So this is all really nice stuff. Like, again, much like Selphie, Sherlotta has a lot of abilities that are free skill use, don't actually do damage, very quick to build up FR gauges later down the line. The difference here is Sherlotta comes back with an FR of her own and a BT, so you may want to wait until that time comes around as well. So Hurl Stuff Plus also gets a bit of a buff as well, which is your basic kind of skill that you'll get from her EX. So it extends the Light of Rejection debuff that she does for initial bravery down by another action, and it does splash damage. Chances are you're never going to use that though after you get her LD. So now let's talk about her LDs. The first thing you want to talk about when it comes to Sherlotta's LD is the special effect that she gets from it, which is Relic Staff. This is a numerical value that appears above her head that stores any bravery that is gained, and the maximum cap of this is equal to 300% of her max obtainable bravery. It also gives the party brave gains, brave damage up, and brave overflows. And it also makes it so that her HP attack that she gets from this and the LD attack itself use that bravery rather than her regular max bravery. So the LD attack itself renders all enemies with 0 bravery, does AoE 100% damage equal to the amount of bravery stored in the Relic Staff. So and then it consumes it all. You then get a use of a Crystal Generation back, and then instead of Fling Staff, you get, instead of like Hurl Staff, you get Fling Staff for 3 uses in a similar way to how Lena gets her Dragon's Breath. So you get 3 uses of that, and if you use Crystal Ray LD attack again, you then get 3 more. Now, Fling Staff is very similar to Crystal Ray in that it uses the damage that's stored by the special effect of Relic Staff to deal damage. So it can obviously exceed the damage cap, otherwise it'd be really, really useless. And it's just a much stronger version of her Hurl Staff because it's using that value instead of her regular max bravery. Once you run out of those, you then use the LD attack again, get some more, and you just have to gain bravery, gain bravery, gain bravery, gain bravery, and then throw it all at the enemy. Is it really good? Yeah, it certainly can be. Because it's equal to a value, any kind of defenses or anything like that that the enemy might have get completely circumvented by this. You just store loads of bravery and throw it at them. And because Fling Staff doesn't necessarily use up all of the bravery that you've stored within the Relic Staff, you can build it up until you have to use Crystal Ray again. It's very, very powerful. However, it's not necessary, and the reason that people are warded away from this banner, even though this LD weapon is actually very good and Sherlotta herself can actually be very good, is because she comes back later with an FR and a BT. At what point you're probably going to want to pull for everything that she has, and at that point you're probably already going to go in grab an LD at some point, and then probably the FR and the BT all at once if you can. So this is going to be the start of when you might want to see things like what we used to have with Emperor, where people wanted to get his LD but didn't have to because his BT was coming. We're kind of hitting that stride as well. We've already seen that with people like Tidus, but Sherlotta is very much the same here. So my advice with this particular banner would be, if you don't have Selphie, you go in on this banner. Like, you just do it until you have Selphie. She's that good. Sherlotta is a nice pick-me-up, and if I got her, I would use her, and it would save me getting a weapon later down the line if I didn't need to. It mean I'd only have to pull for the FR from Sherlotta if I wanted it, and then could go for the BT on one of the other banners that features it. And I think it would save me a lot of hassle, but there's a lot of argument as to whether it's worth pulling for an LD now, and as opposed to using it later when an FR and BT come out. And the honest answer to me for this is, if you're going to use it now, go for it now. If you're not going to use it now, probably don't even need to. So we only have the one event to talk about here, because whatever event comes along with the presumed Sherlotta and Selphie banner, we don't really know what it is, because it's going to be a global first one as far as we can tell. But we can talk about Enna Kros event. So Enna Kros event is going to feature the Chateau d'Illusion, which is a Tantarian variant, which is interesting. And the Lufenia orb on this is kind of a joke, honestly. Like, it's not a lethal attack for a start. It doesn't decrease during player turns. It only decreases during enemy turns, which means if you're using 0-turn strategies, they're just gonna work. The special count increases if you deal either bravery, like holy or dark brave damage, at least 500,000 of it in one turn. So obviously Enna Kros is the character that's designed for this. And once the special count becomes 20 or more, it is cancelled, and then the book opens, which makes it weaker, because it has HP damage resistance while the book is closed. It also has generals that pop up next to it that'll provide some inconvenience unless you're using delay strategies, at which point you won't even have to worry about it. And it does take a lot less damage while the book is closed, but because HP damage increases are so high, honestly all it's going to take for you is like a quick Kurosame or Dark Knight Cecil call and some stacking HP ups, and you probably won't even notice it was there. And I would comment on what attacks this guy does, but pretty much every clear I've seen of this, I haven't seen any. Like any that use Enna Kros or somebody that has Holy Enchant like Ash or Theodore or something like that, you will eventually hit the 20 mark when it comes to the Lufenia orb. So it'll get cancelled, the book will open, and then I think that it puts up a purple aura, which I think is just it saying that it wants to close the book again, because I couldn't notice any actual changes in the fight from the clears that I saw. But it does have HP thresholds where it will put shields up, HP shields, but they're really easy to break through now as well. And you could take practically anybody to this, whether you could take Cloud, Tidus, Garnet, Enna Kros, Zac, pretty much anyone you wanted to when it came to this particular fight, as long as you're not letting the enemies take turns. And if the countdown ability does go off, then it recovers from break, it removes its debuffs, and it's an AoE mass delay. So it's still an inconvenient attack to go off. You don't want it to. But looking at this ability, it just doesn't really do anything, so it's never gonna actually happen. And the generals, the worst thing they do is put some extra shields up on the boss and occasionally attack you. Just don't let them have turns, because this is one of the few times where you really can just do that. Okay, so now let's move on to Would You Pull, which is the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to let your voice be heard and let everyone know in the community whether or not you would want to pull on any of these banners and why that might be the case. So a massive thank you once again to all of my patrons for casting their votes and their comments, and let's go straight into the numbers. So of the 100 people plus we asked, when it came to Enna Kros banner, 16% of people said they were using gems here, 38% of people said they were using 100 or more tickets, 38% of people said they were using less than 100 tickets, and 9% of people said nah, that they weren't really bothering at all. I am in the somewhere between the yes please and the sure, just because I still want Zac. And I don't want to go too heavily on a character I don't care that much about, but if I got her, then she'd be cool, so I'm not sure. And then with Sherlotta and Selphie's event, I think this is going to be largely in part because Selphie was really good when she last came out, so people pulled for her the first time. So it's just Sherlotta LD that people are looking at here. 4% of people said they were using gems here. 44% of people said they were using 100 more tickets. 40% of people said less than 100 tickets. 12% of people said, nah, thank you. I kind of feel the same about this banner too, and all of Zach's banners, actually. Like, I don't really care about any of the LDs that are being released, except Selphie. When it comes to Zach, I just want Zach's BT, and I don't want to have to token it, so I'll throw some tickets and stuff because I have a decent amount of them. If you don't, if you're lacking resources, there are probably better banners you could pull later down the line that have a bit more value for you, unless, of course, you don't have Selphie. So let's go into some comments. Golden Garros says, I'll be pulling for Enna Kros, her, as I still don't have Zach Burst. Her kit is pretty nice, though I do already have Reno, but probably just tickets and some max from Leviathan. Sherlotta I've never really used before, because she tends to not be very nice to me on her banners, and I already have Selphie, so maybe 100 at most. Reno, to be honest, no shade to all the Reno fans there. While I'm making this video, I keep actually forgetting that Reno is there. Like, that's how I feel about Reno. I think that his LD call is still quite good. I think his LD is better than it was, but I just think it's a real shame with Reno because he's such an exciting character for a lot of people that his kit is just so boring outside of his LD. It doesn't do anything special, and it's just an unfortunate thing. So I kind of agree with what's being said here. Light Husky says, so for Enna Kros, I'd love to have her kit as she seems pretty interesting with her EX recharge gimmick. So I'll probably use 150 to 200 tickets and hope for her LD, as can token everything else if needed. Charlotta's banner would be nice to grab her LD now instead of waiting for when her BT comes around. Her LD is pretty cool and means she can deal some really decent damage. Personally never used her when she first came around, so it would be nice to utilize someone who's usually been benched. As for Selphie, I already have her LD, so I'll be happy to make more of her use with her update to her LD buff. If I don't manage Charlotta LD in 150 tickets, I'm not too worried. Again, pretty much the same. This is how I'm feeling, but like, I just want to pull a BT. I actually haven't pulled a BT since Garnet, which I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I should pull a BT at some point. But I haven't really been pulling very heavily on, well, not much anyway, Layla, but that's pretty much it. But yeah, I'd like to get them. If I don't get them, I'll live. Goose says, even for a damage dealer, Enna Kros seems like the absolute epitome of you need to invest in her fully to get good results. Blue armor, max weapon, yes, very this. Boosting HP cap to make up for a relatively low number of dumps is kind of her whole shtick. Even then, you'll want to team build around dragging her turn forward thanks to her LTR and filling her EX ASAP so that she's about as high maintenance as it gets. I can't afford to blue her and don't have unique ultimate weapon, so that's out the window for me. Beyond damage, she technically has turn delete, but on a slow EX that you'll want to be hitting on cooldown, so it seems more like a bonus than a tactical feature. Dark is also a neat element to have, especially AoE. I'll pick her up for the call, which despite it being a complete meme and not in any way to be relied upon, seems like it has the potential fun for shenanigans. This is what I'm talking about with Enna Kros. Enna Kros, like, it gets a lot of, like, she's amazing. No, she's crap. This comment exemplifies everything that I have said about Enna Kros. She's cool. She is cool, she's very high maintenance, and she can't be relied upon. And that's why I'm not super fussed about her, because I don't also have the blue, like, I'm not going to blue her, I don't have a unique ultimate weapon, it's just not for me. If you already have one from, like, Noel or something, then maybe you might feel a bit more investment towards her, but I agree with this 100%. Finally, Naku says, tickets for Enna Kros here simply because she's a fave and gimmicky characters are always fun to toy around with, and who doesn't like mechs? I don't like them when they look like cardboard boxes. And for my current roster of characters, I think I have everything needed to have her shine properly. Although she is a favourite, I won't gem her since I already have the BT, and the next BT is also a favourite and the only banner I want to pull on during that cycle, so gems need to be saved. I agree with you on Laguna there as well. For Sherlotta, I will only be using 100 tickets. While I do have enough thanks to Leviathan, her BTFR banner seems more appealing and something I want to gem. Still, having the LD beforehand could prove to be a nice advantage, but for now I don't see getting it now as a priority. Plus I already have Selphie, so that brings the value down of the banner a lot more for me, that is. Again, this is why I make these would you pull polls, as well as the fact that I want everyone else to have their voice heard, is because I want people to know that when I voice my opinions, I'm not always alone on them. So, like, this is kind of where I am with all of the, like, the current banners, but this is very true of pretty much everything up until FR era, except for very select, like, BT characters specifically. So LDs at this point, because if you want an easy ride, you're probably just taking 3 BT characters and then not worrying about it. So why use resources on characters you're not going to use? So now, of course, we beg the question, should you be pulling for Enna Kros, Reno, Selphie, or Sherlotta? So we'll start with the first banner. We haven't spoken about the third banner that may or may not contain Garland and Auron because we don't know exactly what's on it, and even if it is presumed to be Auron and Garland, then there's a good chance that they're not getting any updates, so honestly I wouldn't pull on it anyway. So Enna Kros can be huge. Like, her damage caps from Omega God are really big. She can churn out a lot of damage to make up for the lower count of her HP dumps, although her LD actually isn't that low on HP dumps, to be fair. And when you've got Omega God doing that much damage, it can be very appealing. And she does have turn deletion attached to her EX as well, but you do have to be willing to put in a lot of work to make her really shine. So, like we said earlier, blue armor, Ultima weapons, all that good stuff, but also party composition is very important when it comes to Enna Kros. You're not just going to stick her in any party because she's too slow to really capitalize on a lot of things. Characters like Rem and other turn manipulators, or characters like Lude who can really improve her EX rate, are going to be massively helpful to her. This also extends to her LD call. Like, there's a lot of RNG that goes with Enna Kros. Like, some people really want it because of the memes and the I can cast 6 EXs during a BT phase, or 7 even. The reality is it's just not going to happen. Like, it's 20%. That's not a lot to expect multiple times over the course of a BT phase, and that's not RNG that I'd be happy to rely on. But if you've got nothing else to use, and and as somebody who loves the Emperor, if I had it, I'd give it a go, but I just don't think it's something that's worth relying on. Reno, I just think, is completely forgettable, which is really sad because he's a very popular character. His LD is still noteworthy, like Pyramid is still cool, and having like the extra Dispel is nice. And the extra HP dumps across his board is also nice, but they're not enough of them to make up for what he does, because his debuffing is average at best, and the numb debuff, it asks for physical attack specifically, and in an era where they're not really, if you're letting the enemy take turns, it's because they need to take turns. So having them take a turn and then delay themselves is not really very helpful in 90% of scenarios, because you're either not going to let them get a turn at all, or you need them to take turns to tick up a Lufenia orb. So Reno just doesn't really work all that well, which makes me very sad. Selphie, if you don't have Selphie, you just get her. You just do it. Her changes don't look like much when you read them out loud until you read that one sentence where you're like, wait, what? Because the Rapture debuff is just busted at this point. Like, there's no reason not to want to use this. 2 extra HP dumps, plus a percentile increase on every attack from your whole party? Because that's what a launch is. It's really silly. And then she's no slouch at FR era either, because she's able to spam wall and aura so that you can build your FR gauge up. It's not very exciting, but it works, and it's really good for it. And that's something you're going to see a lot of when it comes to the FR era, whether it comes from Selphie, or Luna Freya, or Sherlotta, of course. And we'll come to Sherlotta as well, who is better, definitely. Like, she's certainly a solid character. Her LD now, makes it so she can store this bravery, bypass enemy defenses practically entirely. She can use crystal generation way more regularly because she restores skill uses of it. And getting her LD now means ticking an item off the list when her FR and BT come out, which are very good for all of the reasons that I mentioned earlier. But at this point, you don't need her. Like, not really, but you don't really need a lot of characters right now. And honestly, when you're on a banner stood next to Selphie after that update, no one looks great. So that is going to be all from today's video. Thank you so much for joining me today. And let me know in the comments below where your resources are going this week, if anywhere, and what you're aiming for and hoping for over the next couple of weeks. Do we think it's Auron and Garland at the end? There's the second accompanying banner to Sherlotta Selphie? Do we think it's Sherlotta Selphie, or it could be changed to something completely different, rendering this video completely pointless? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, that's going to be it from me. Don't forget to like the video, click the bell for notifications, and I really implore you to do that, because I have been making lots of videos on other things that are getting completely bulldozed by the YouTube algorithm, so it's very much appreciated for everyone who does do that. So, because I've been told a lot of my videos aren't coming through to you guys, and that kind of sucks, and I don't know why that's happening. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and that's going to be it from me today for Dissidia Opera Omnia. Do come and find me on Twitch if you'd like to join in with anything else that I'm doing, and I will see you next time. Take care.